Hi, my name is Melissa Clark, and this is my case study, Module 14 for EDL850. So the case we're talking about, the inciting incident is multiple copies have been made of a computer software program that was purchased. One license was purchased through PTA funding for the school as a whole. So the people involved is Mr. Sample, who's the principal, Mrs. Lynn, who is the library media specialist, and Mrs. Brandon, who is a third grade teacher. Where it's taking place is St. Regis School, which is a K-8 school in a rural area. The concern that's happening is Mrs. Brandon believes a copyright infringement has been made. She is uncomfortable with the situation and is not accepting the product that is being offered to her. So the legal and ethical issues. The legal issues is copyright infringement. So breaking the copyright law can result in fines up to $150,000 for each infringed work, and also possible jail time for those duplicated copies that have been made. The ethical issues, of course, at play is that the producer of the software is not getting paid for those copies, those duplicate copies that have been made of their work. So the issue at hand, the problem is that Mrs. Lynn, the library media specialist, has made multiple copies of a computer software program because she wanted to distribute to the teachers within her building, and this breaks copyright laws. So the facts. First off, the people. Mr. Sample, he is a principal. He has been a principal in the school for 3 years now. Well, this is his third year. He coming to a school in a rural district, he was very anxious that he would not be very welcome, but he has earned a lot of respect from the school staff and also the community members for his work in the school in the area. Mrs. Lynn is the library media specialist. She has worked for 3 years inside the school, and she is a veteran teacher that's very well respected throughout the school, is known for doing what is best in students' best interest. Then we have Mrs. Brandon, who's a third grade teacher. She has taught for 3 years, but this is her first year in this school district. Of course, there's other building teachers that are involved, and then the students are involved as well, because they are the ones that are going to be using the computer software program. So the place, it's at St. Regis K-8 school, which is in a rural area. They said there was approximately 420 students. That puts about 2 teachers per grade level, with about 2 special ed teachers in the school overall. The program, it is a public school, and there's 1 computer software program license that was bought with PTA funding. When this was bought, it was intended that it would be used in the computer lab, and only 1 license would be used. However, the problem is that the license was being duplicated onto multiple CDs for teachers to be able to use in their specific rooms, and that is where the copyright infringement happened. So the stakeholders with this entire incident, Mr. Sample, of course, being held accountable would jeopardize his career, his school, and his school district to lawsuit for copyright violations. It would also jeopardize his positive reputation and the relationship that he worked really hard to build with those community members and the rest of that school staff. Mrs. Lynn would also be jeopardizing her career and her school to lawsuit. Mrs. Brandon, she's risking a relationship with veteran teachers in the building by speaking up and by going against the copyright infringement. And also different funding opportunities, whether it's just school funding in general or future PTA funding opportunities like the fundraisers that they had been holding before then. So I created 3 options. The first option is to continue with the use of the copied software programs that were made by the librarian and the PTA leader who helped make them. So if they continue to do this, obviously the consequence would be very high. They would risk their school for a copyright lawsuit and risk their own careers and risk their school district for fines and possible jail time as well. The option 2 would be the termination of employees involved in the duplication of the copyrighted materials, and this consequence would be losing multiple veteran and respected employees, and then decision makers such as Mr. Sample losing community and school respect. The option 3 would be to destroy the duplicate copies. Use this experience as a learning opportunity during a PD to educate staff on copyright laws, and then also to create more fundraising opportunities with the ability to purchase more copies of these licenses. So the consequence of that is having upset teachers with the loss of the duplicated materials. So when evaluating these options, the first option, to keep using them, would obviously be to do nothing, to take no action, which has the highest stakes. It could result in a lawsuit against the principal, multiple teachers that are involved in using the computer software programs and that are knowledgeable about the duplication process. That puts their school at risk, their principal at risk, and themselves at risk. Option 2 is the more liberal motion that has to do with more of a power move of just firing those teachers. That would ultimately diminish the respect that Mr. Sample has worked so hard to earn with his staff and community, and that really does no good, that does no teaching. That is a very ultimatum decision. And then option 3 is to destroy those copies and use this experience as a learning opportunity. So with that, staff would be aware of copyright laws afterwards, and there would be no strict unreasonable punishments. So in implementing the best option, obviously I chose option 3. And when implementing this, the first step would obviously be Mr. Sample needs to meet with Mrs. Lynn and the PTA leader, the ones that did the duplications and were planning to pass those out, and just discussing the repercussions of copyright infringement, making them knowledgeable of how big of a deal it actually can become, whether they may not see it or not in their rural area, and getting them on the same page with why it is so important to destroy them. So the second step would be meeting with all of the staff members, telling them the best option and how, as a staff, we are going to implement that option. Step 3 is collecting all those duplicate copies and then having them be destroyed. So getting rid of any infringement that we created. And then step 4 is to schedule a professional development in which copyright laws are a focus. I think that a lot of people may not have malintentions when they are duplicating copyright laws, or when they are duplicating softwares and things like that for copyright laws. However, they don't realize the significance of the law that they are breaking. And then finally, in order to try to obtain more license, organize a plan for fundraising opportunities to raise more money for additional copies of software programs. These fundraising opportunities can be as simple as a pie in a teacher's face, or it can be something like a fun run, or some things through the school, creating a school store. Just some way to be able to get those funds if those licenses are truly as necessary in the school as Mrs. Lynn believes that they are.